Hey, welcome to Mike's Trains. In this part of the video we're going to do a little bit more on finishing the interior on this building. As you can see, I've already finished the front half and all the outer walls on this. I want to talk about this little front wall section. I was going to do the video for it, and what happened was I didn't have any material to make that from. So I started messing around, and I did it off video because I didn't know if it was going to work or not, with some plastic scraps that I have laying around. And I ended up using it because I think it worked out well enough to use. And this little section, from this seam over to here, that piece is the piece we're talking about. I didn't have any big enough pieces, and so what I did was I took some scraps from this section right here to the bottom of the windows and back up. This is a section out of a DPM kit. I had it left over from something I was doing. So I cut that, I squared up all the edges, and then this piece here, this bottom half down, is what's left over from when I cut out this center section here. So I cut that off, and I cut it the height of this opening to be the same height as the garage doors, like these over here. I cut it to the same height as this door here. And the opening is probably maybe a little bit smaller in width here from side to side than the garage doors, but I think it comes off just fine. And then, because these pieces up here weren't wide enough, I took some more scraps from this bottom piece that I used and I added them to the edges. I cut off the styrene right at this, what do you want to call it, a column. I cut it right off at the column on both sides, and then I added a wider piece on. And I did the same on the bottom to make this piece wide enough to go all the way across. And then I just cut it and squared it up, and that made that whole front piece. And I didn't do a video. I probably should have, but I didn't know if it was going to work, and I was kind of just messing around, and it actually came out better than I thought it would have, so I used it. Let me turn this up. Maybe you can see a little bit more of how I did this. If I turn this like this, you can kind of see all the sections of plastic that styrene that I put all together. So what you have is you have a section right here, and I took sheet styrene to reinforce the backside. You can see them here, 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 and then here's the seam for the center window section, the seam for the bottom door section, and then wherever these styrene reinforcements are, there's another strip of styrene that comes up the sides. And then I glued all that together, and it came up with the whole front panel. Now I do have a little notch in here, but that's not going to really matter to anything. And then after that was all glued together and solid, ready to go, I use red auto body putty to fill in all the gaps and things like that. So you can see a little bit of it right here, maybe a little bit in these little small areas here. And then after that was all dried up, I took it outside, I sprayed it, and that's what we came up with. And I think it worked out just fine. So there's our front panel. So that gives us our front panel. Here's a close-up of how it looks. You can still see the seams a little bit, but I think overall it's pretty good. I'm happy with it, and I'm going to let it roll. You can see the columns have a small seam right here and right here. This alignment on this one's just a shade off, but I really don't think it's enough to be a problem. So we're going to go with it. And that'll work like that. Now the next thing I want to do is, I'm not ready to put the roof on there just yet. there's one more thing I want to do to the inside of this before I go and start looking at roofing and things like that. And that is, when I put together the inside of this, okay, so over here you can see there are what are like girder supports that go down each bay. And that would be these pieces right here. Now, in those pieces, when I have the kit, and in the kit you get, it's a 3-bay kit, and you get 3 of these. Well, I have the kit and the add-on kit, so I can make this into 6 bays. Well, Walthers doesn't, it gives you an extra parts tree so that you have, because there's one of these per parts tree, but you need 3 parts trees to come up with all of these. So in effect, I guess what I'm getting at is you get an extra one of these uprights, okay? And I was looking at it and I started thinking that this upright, here's the extra one, would go really well down this section here, okay? But the first problem I had in doing this, aside from the obvious that it's too long, is that there's a slight bend in this upper upright. So when you look at it, and if I take a straight edge like this, and we lay it on there, you can see that there's a bend to that. Okay? So this roof that goes across here has that bend in it, it's made for it. But this section over here is just going to be a flat roof. So in order to put this piece across here, I had to take out the bend. So all I did on this piece right here, and you can see the black from it, I just heated it a little bit and just put it down on my table here and just squeezed, pushed it down to the flat surface and let it reharden. So now we have no bend left in this. Now the next problem we have, so this will come down like this and it needs to fit. I want it to go right up to this set of windows right here, right beside the garage door. Or maybe we'll go into this, I think maybe better go into this seam right here. So it'll come across here and right into here. It'll follow that right across like this. So the next thing we have is the other obvious, in that there's this lower section and then it raises up in the center and comes back down. So we need to make this one straight across because this is the height we need on both sides. We need to get rid of this section. So here's how we're going to do this. Alright, so here's what I have. This is one of my favorite new tools that I've gotten in the last few months. This is a chopper, and I love using this thing. Because this is set at a 90 degree. We have this straight edge back here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to separate out this center section from the two side sides. I already cut one off. And then we're going to come in here, we're going to line this up on here, like this. And then we're just going to bring this down and cut it off. So now we have a nice cut. Alright? So we have this, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and move it up like this. So this will go like this. And then this one will come down on this side and go on just like that. Like that. And then we're just going to glue all that together, and then all we need to do is trim down the legs, and then we have one long section to put inside of our building. So let me get a straight edge. So here, actually I want something kind of heavy so it doesn't move around on us. so I'm going to take this square here and put this up to the square. I'm going to put this up to the square. And I think before I do that, I want to clean off this little bit of plastic that's hanging on here. Alright, so there we go. Now our edges are nice and clean. Now we're going to take this and put it right up to there like that. Alright, and we're going to drop a little bit of glue in there. Okay, so here, I actually want to put something underneath that as well. The glue will tend to, on these plastic sheets, it'll tend to mess that up a little bit. It'll stick to it. So we don't want that. So let's put this underneath, like this. Okay, so that goes like that. Now we have our pieces together. Now we're going to let that sit for, I don't know, I'm going to let that sit for 10 or 15 minutes to fully set up so that I can lift it without it coming apart, because this plastic needs to re-harden. Okay, so now we have this piece. It's all one now. It's pretty well dried up. So now, obviously these legs here are longer than the rest, but I'm not going to trim those down yet. First we want to get the length going across here. So we're going to put this end tight to here, and we're going to see which leg we need to cut this off at. And it's looking like I think we can cut this. Let's cut it a little long. We're going to cut it right here. So let me get my Sharpie. I'm going to pull this tight over here at this end and see where we are at this end. So let's cut it off right here. We're going to cut it right here, like that. So this piece we'll throw to the side and see how this fits down in now. Okay, so now I've also marked on the back side where these legs want to cut. So now we're all one length. Let's drop this down in here and see what we have. Okay, so now we have this support right here to take out. We're going to cut this one. Like that. Okay, so now we need the Sharpie. We're just going to mark this right here. And then we'll fit that back down one more time, and that should fit right in. Just like that. And that's what we're looking for. And actually we're going to drop this down just a little further, because if you look down in here, there's a ridge right here, and that should be the ridge that the roof is going to sit on, so we need this to be at that height. And that'll do it. So now we just glue that in, and our last upright is done. And that'll go just like that, and then it matches the rest of the interior. So let's get that glued in, and then that'll be it for that. Alright, so there it is, all installed. I actually went a little step further, and I had that scrap that I cut off from the length of this piece, and I installed it right here, going across here. It works out perfectly. When you're looking through the door, it's another support beam that goes through here. The height, the train will pass under it perfectly. It's actually the same height as the garage doors on both ends. It's actually a little bit higher. Width-wise, it just goes into the pathway of the train just a small amount. It's not going to interfere with anything, and it gives me a little bit more support for the roof that's going to go on top of here. So now I'm just going to let that sit until tomorrow. I want that to fully harden up before I go any further. But I think we're pretty good. I'm liking where this is at. Let me turn it a little more, you can see what's going on. So there it is. That's the machine shop. And then you go over to this side and it all matches. And then you can see the windows on the top that I took out up here that we filled in. Doesn't look that odd or out of place at all, as well as the window on the bottom down here that was filled in. I think it all looks fine. I'm liking the way this is going. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And if you have subscribed, thank you, and thanks for watching, and thanks for taking time out to see what I'm doing. If you haven't visited my website yet, please do. It's mikestrains.wordpress.com. You can subscribe to updates over there as well. So if I upload pictures and things like that, photos, which I occasionally do, you'll hear about it and know about it. You'll get an update in your email. And until next time, happy modeling.